Okay, let's dive into the chilling story of Charles Sobhraj. We're talking about a con man, a thief, and a stone-cold killer who in the 20th century just carved this path of victims across Asia. And he did it not just with violence, but with an absolutely masterful command of psychological manipulation.
And that was the whole paradox of Charles Sobhraj, wasn't it? He was handsome, he was intelligent, but underneath all that charm was just this chilling void of scruples. His charisma, it wasn't just a personality trait, it was his primary weapon. It's how he drew people into a web they couldn't even feel until it was way, way too late.
All right, so our story really takes a dark turn in the mid-70s. We're on the so-called hippie trail in Asia. For thousands of young Western backpackers, this was supposed to be a path to enlightenment, But for a tragic few, it ended up being the end of the road. Just look at this timeline. In the span of 3 short months, this wave of absolutely brutal murders sweeps across Thailand and Nepal. The victims were all young travelers. Their deaths were incredibly violent, and they seemed completely random. The press, well, they fixated on what 2 of the early victims were wearing, and that's how the killer got his infamous nickname, the Bikini Killer. The police, though? They had no idea who was behind it.
The audacity of these crimes was just staggering. I mean, how could one person possibly gain the trust of so many different people, only to betray them in the most horrific way imaginable? The answer, it turns out, isn't really in the murders themselves, but in the making of the man who committed them.
See, Sobhraj wasn't born a monster. He was really forged by a childhood of rejection, and this profound, deep-seated sense of abandonment, it created a man who was loyal to absolutely no one but himself. He was constantly shuttled between parents, between countries. He never felt like he'd belonged anywhere. And this kind of rootless existence, it just erased any sense of allegiance to family or to a nation. In its place grew this pathological need to control other people, a void he would spend the rest of his life trying to fill. Sobhraj wasn't just some thug. He was a student of human nature. He literally studied psychology so he could weaponize it, turning the simple act of connection into a trap. His victims became his prisoners long before they ever saw a lock or a key. And this is where we see the mind of a true predator. This wasn't random violence at all. It was a cold, calculated playbook. He'd find a target, gain their trust, make them sick to create dependency, and then, once they were completely under his control, he would take everything from them. He always presented himself as the savior, right? Their only friend in a foreign land. But behind that mask, he was the architect of their downfall. The crazy part is, his victims didn't just walk into his trap. They did it willingly, believing he was the one person who could actually help them. And this quote, wow, it says it all. This was never just about the money or the passports. It was about the ultimate power, the power to completely erase someone's will and turn them into a puppet right before cutting the strings for good. His crimes were audacious, for sure, but his escapes, they were legendary. He earned that nickname, the Serpent, because of his uncanny ability to just slither out of any trap. His most famous escape, though, wasn't about getting out of jail. It was about staying in. So in 1976, Sobhraj gets jailed in India. But there was a much bigger threat looming, an active murder warrant back in Thailand, and that one came with a death penalty. The clock was ticking, because that warrant would expire in exactly 20 years. And Sobhraj knew it. So he does the math. His Indian sentence is going to end long before that Thai warrant expires. He was basically facing certain execution. So what do? How do you escape a death sentence that's just waiting for you? He had this brilliant, twisted realization. The safest place to hide from the Thai executioner was right where he already was, inside an Indian prison. He didn't need to break out. He needed to find a way to stay in just long enough for that warrant to become worthless. This is just incredible. It wasn't just an escape, it was a calculated legal maneuver. He literally threw a party, drugged everybody, walked out, got himself caught on purpose, and bam, gets another 10 years. He turned a prison break into a tool to control his own judicial destiny, making sure that by the time he was a free man, Thailand couldn't touch him. So after his full sentence was served, Sobhraj gets released in 1997, and he enjoys this bizarre period of celebrity living freely in Paris. But it would be his own hubris, his unshakable belief that he was invincible, that would finally seal his fate.
He goes back to France a free man, and unbelievably a celebrity. He sold his life story for a fortune, charged journalists thousands of dollars for interviews. For a while there, it really seemed like he had gotten away with everything, living a life of luxury funded by his own infamy.
Then, in 2003, in what you can only describe as an act of pure arrogance, he flies back to Nepal. Now, why is that a big deal? Because it was the one country on Earth that could still try him for murder, since it has no statute of limitations. The only answer is that he truly, deeply believed he was untouchable.
So his final downfall wasn't some brilliant piece of detective work. It was just a fatal miscalculation. He walked right back into the only trap left in the world that could still hold him. After nearly 2 decades in a Nepalese prison, he was finally released, an old man, his legend finally catching up to him.
And today, Charles Sobhraj is a free man, back in Paris. Which leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question. The Serpent is old now, sure, but is the venom ever truly gone?